Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to create some KPI designs. We have got 16 different ideas to visualize KPIs. So in this part, which is part one of two videos, we are going to design 8 different styles of KPIs. 4 of those KPIs will be sales, and then 4 of those KPIs will be sales versus profit. In the next video, which will be part 2, we are going to design 8 more KPIs, which would be 4 for actual sales versus target sales, and 4 for sales versus baseline year sales. The inspiration for making these KPIs in Power BI come from Kajal Kadam's 16 different ideas to visualize your KPIs. She created these KPIs in Tableau, which we are creating in Power BI. So you can check out her work, that is on public.tableau.com. And we can see that these are the sales KPIs and sales versus profit KPIs. Then we've got these actual sales versus target sales and actual sales versus baseline year sales. You can also check out her LinkedIn account where she has shared more details about these visuals. And also these visuals were selected as Viz of the Day by Tableau. So let's get back to our worksheet. You can find the Power BI starter file in the description of this video, where all of the DAX measures have been pre-configured, and you can use this starter file to follow along in the video and create the visuals. I'll quickly go through the DAX measures that we have created or the tables that we have. So I'll start with the table. So for example, here we have got the fact retail table, which contains all of the facts like the sales and the profit and so on. And then we have the dim product, which is the dimension table for the product, but we are not using that in this particular video. We have created one dim calendar table and then one dim calendar running table. This running table is basically just a copy of the dim calendar table that we use for creating the trend charts in our KPIs. We have got one baseline year table, which is basically being used in this filter, as you can see here. And then we have got select years, which is basically 5, 10, and 15 years, which we are using here in order to drive the trends that we will see, like 5-year trend, 10-year trend, and so on. So when we go to the measures table, we see a lot of different folders. I have created dummy measures, which is just a 0 value that we are using in our visuals. And then I have tried to create the specific measures which are being used in a specific visual. So let's say in visual 2, if we are using some kind of SVG, as we can see here, and then another SVG and so on. So all of that has been combined in a folder called Visual 02. So for every visual, wherever it's needed, I have created a separate folder. So here, for example, I've got these 3 KPIs, and then I've got the image URL. This image URL is basically referencing to those 3 measures which are specific to Visual 02. So in this manner, I have created all of these folders. You can go through them once you download the file. And then I have created a couple of filters, like any filters that I'm using. So any measures for that, they are being used here. Any text that I am creating, for example, versus baseline year, and then I want to show the value of that baseline year. So I'm creating those kind of texts in the text folder. I've got title, any titles that I'm using, they are in the titles folder. And then I've got plenty of sales measures like variance and variance percentage, all of them in the sales folder. And similarly, I have done it for the profit. Let's start building the KPIs. So what we are going to do is to copy the KPI, and then we'll start to replicate that. So I'll copy it somewhere here. And now let's build the KPI. We are going to insert the card new visual, and we are going to bring in sales total. I'll just drag it to the left like this. Okay, sales total. You've got 4 million. Now we are going to do some formatting. First is the resizing, and then let's start from here. Call out values, push it to some smaller size, and then we are going to make it to the center. Take this one, thousands. Yep. Go back. and we are going to show it as bold. For the label, we are going to select this one, and then we are going to select some field value. So let's say sales current year. This is the title that we already created in terms of a measure, and then we are going to go back to all. In fact, we are going to select sales total, yep. And then for the reference labels, we are going to add something with an arrow. So we've got two measures. I think this is the one. Let's try it. Yes, this is the one. And then what we are going to do is to remove the title from all of these. The value shall remain, the divider shall be removed, and also the value should be in the middle. So I think it's in layout. Yes. And then what we are going to do here is to increase the value size, increase the font size to something like this. Now we are going to apply the formatting. So we will select sales total, this one, we select the label, the title is off, but the value needs to be colored according to the conditions. So we've got color measures, we've got plenty of these. I think this is the one, sales total var percent versus prior year color. Yes, it is. And here we can see, in case if you want to test it, I think 2021 was the one with the negative number, so this is working perfectly fine. And then the next one is we have to set the color of the border of the card. So we are going to go to cards, and we are going to select this one. The background, we turn it off. The border, we have to use the same color value. So we'll type color, because I have created all of the measures with the keyword color, where I am using them for conditional formatting. So one sales total var percentage versus prior year, and here we can see that it's changing, so we can make it slightly thicker, and that is it. What we have to do is to turn off the background, and yes, our first visual is complete. We can also test it, it's turning red, so that's absolutely fine. This one is complete. The next visual that we are going to build is a combination of three visuals. So here we can see that we've got this card new, the new card again, and this as an area chart, and all three of them, they are grouped together. So again, we are going to copy it to our page, and then we are going to replicate that one by one. So first things first, what we are going to do is to bring in this KPI. We can use this KPI, Control C, Control V, and we can expand it. We can remove the borders, and for this what we are going to do is to remove the labels, not the labels, rather we are going to remove the, yes, sorry, it's the labels, yeah. So we are going to remove the labels, yeah, that's fine. And for the details of the reference labels, we are going to bring in this one, turn the detail on, and then we are going to bring in the prior year. So variance versus prior year, I think this should be the one. Let's bring it here. Yes, 31K. Now what we have to do is to check the layout. For that, we are going to go all, in fact, all, and then layout, and it has to be columns, so that's fine. It has to be to the left, and then we go back to the call out values, sorry, all, and then we are going to go to the values and then left. Okay, so this is fine. Now we are going to just decrease it as much as possible. Maybe we go to general properties, padding, we can remove the padding, so this will just push it up slightly. Yeah. So this KPI part is complete. Now we have to bring in the heading. So what we are going to do is we are going to simply create a new card visual and place it somewhere here. Then we are going to bring in sales total again. Sales underscore total. And then what we are going to do is we are going to bring in this title. So the call out values, you select this one, and for this the label should be sales current year. This is the label, sales 2021. That's fine. Now we will turn off the values. The label, it has to be slightly bigger. Let's say something like this. Okay. And then we have to bring in the image. So for the image, what we have done is we have created some specific visual measures. So for example, this is visual 2. So I've got this down arrow, neutral, and up arrow, and all these three, they are SVGs. And then I have got this image URL, which I'm going to use depending on the condition. So what I'm going to do is to select this image URL, and then I have to select the field value. So simply go there, URL. Okay, so I've got this one, and then I'm going to put it to the left of the text, and the size should be something around 24 perhaps. Space between image and the call out, so that has to increase something like this. Okay, and then we go there, not the properties but the effects, we turn this off, we turn off the header icons, and let's have a look. Okay, so we still need to do some cleanup for the cards. No background, no border. How does it look now? Yeah. Okay, so the second part is complete. Now if we try to select 2024, we see that it's changing. Absolutely perfect. Now we have to bring in the line chart. It's very easy. So we are going to bring in the stacked area chart, or you can even use a line chart, it's up to you. And then we are going to make the sales total, but this time it has to be sales total running. Running means that I am using some kind of measures, and you can have a look at these measures in detail. But what I'm doing here essentially is that I am adjusting the trend of the last n number of years. That could either be 5, 10, or 15, depending on this filter or this slicer. And I am trying to see the trend of the last n number of years. So what we are going to do here is that we are going to bring in this sales total running for the y-axis, and then we are going to bring in the theme calendar running. So this is another thing, and we have to bring in the year from here. So we've got this line, and now we have to do some cleanup in terms of that we will remove the y-axis altogether. We will remove the x-axis altogether, and then we are going to remove the title as well, and then we are going to set the color. So we go to lines, all, and color. We can set some nice color, this one, and the transparency of the line should be fine, but the area, it can be somewhere around 85 perhaps, something like this. For the line, you can also make it thinner if you want. Okay, so we still see that there is a bit of space here on the left hand side. That is because the axis is not set properly. So we are going to go to x-axis, and instead of continuous, it has to be categorical. And then we have to sort the axis by year and in the ascending order. Now we can see that it's sales total running, and this is fine. One thing we see here is that the tooltip is on. So for the KPIs, I think it's up to you, but I would prefer to turn them off. So I would turn it off because we already see the number here and we just want to see the trend. What is the difference as compared to the prior year? So this one is also done. Let's test it. So in case if I want to go to 2019, I can see that, yeah, it is like that. The trend is changing. 2021, yes. If I go to 5 years, it's like this. 10 years. And let's say if I go to 2025 and then I go to 15 years, it's something like this. So it's absolutely fine. And the last thing that we can do is to group these three visuals. So we select them, right click, group, and we go to view selection. Now we've got this group 1, we can call it visual 02, right? And this one, so this stays at the top, and we can call it, for example, this one, we can call it KPI card. This one could be line chart. This one could be title. So these are some of the tips that you can use for grouping the visuals. Now here you see that the title is hidden, so it must be the background. We're going to check two backgrounds here in the card visual. We go to general effects, we see that the background is on. And also, in case if it still doesn't work, you have to go to cards and then you have to make sure that the background is off here. So now this visual is done. Let's move on to the third visual. This visual is also a combination of 1, 2, and 3. As we can see here, once we click here, visual 3. So it's a combination of basically 4 visuals: the card new, the text, the line chart, and the shape. In fact, shape is something that I've already created, so it's a combination of 3 visuals. So let's copy this and then we can start building this one. First things first, so we are going to start with this KPI again, copy and paste. We will bring in this KPI and now we will start modifying this one. So here we can see that the title is there and the difference and the variance versus the prior year and the variance in percentage, they both are present in terms of a table or like side by side. So what we are going to do is first we are going to adjust the title here. So we select the visual, we come to format your visual, layout, that's fine. Now call out values, we have to bring in the label below the value, so it comes below the value and we have to turn it on. And then we have to go to sales, so we come here and the label, we turn it on, remove this, and then we simply type sales. And then we have to remove the spacing, so we have to push it up, bring a nice blue color, bold. So that's it. Now we have to work with the labels, but before we start with the reference labels. So before we start with the reference labels, I'll adjust the image. So we go to images, image, turn it on, and then we have to look for visual 3. I believe I created one. Yes, we have it. So image URL, and we have to use this visual 3 image URL. Here we go. Okay, so now we have it here. In case if we select 2021, our favorite here, which shows a red arrow. So this one is working. Now we have to set the reference labels here. For adjusting the reference labels, we will start with reference labels, one sales total. So now we have got two. One is VAR percentage versus prior year, and one is VAR versus prior year. So what we're going to do here is VAR versus prior year. We've got this one. We bring it up here. Let's remove this. Okay, so we've got this 31k, and then we have to bring in only the percentage. So VAR percentage, and I think this should be the one. Yeah, so VAR percentage versus prior year. So we've got this thing. Okay, and now we have to make them smaller. So we will select all values and we'll bring them down to this font size, bold, and we will make them lighter gray, I think, something around this. And then we have to go back to the, or if we turn on the details, let's have a look. Can we bring in the detail like I think it's text? So versus prior year 2020. So versus prior year here, if we bring in this, no, we cannot. Why? Because we have to select them one by one. So here we select this one, and now if we want to bring it, no, we have to select VAR versus prior year. Now we can bring it. So we simply bring this one versus prior year 2020, and then we have to select another one versus prior year 2020, right? So this one is done, but we have to adjust the formatting. So we are going to go back. So we are going to go back to the details part here. We are going to select all, and now we will select the detail and we will adjust it to a lighter gray and perhaps a smaller font. Okay, so the first part of the KPI is complete. Now we have to bring in this text box. It's a very simple text box. It's just that we are coloring actual sales in blue color. So let me just make it bigger because I think it's yeah, so this one should be fine. So now what we are going to do is to insert a text box. And then we are going to write actual sales versus year-on-year change. This is basically the title of this chart. So we are going to select this and select it as blue, and then this as gray. Now we have to bring in this combo chart. So we will start with new visual, and that would be the combo chart. This one, we are going to bring it here. Something like this. And then we're going to put in sales underscore total running. So this one, sales underscore total running. This would be the line y-axis. And year from dim calendar running, this would be the x-axis. And then we have to, again, we have to select x-axis, and it has to be categorical, sorted by year, ascending. So we see it's the exact same trend. And then we have to, I would suggest we just go like this first. So, and then we are going to bring in running. So we have to bring in the VAR versus prior year running, this one. Okay, here we can see, and then we are going to do some formatting. For example, for x-axis, we will keep it as it is. For y-axis, that's fine. We'll turn off the legend, and for the columns, we will increase some spacing. something like this. Then for the color, we have got color var versus prior year running color. Yeah, so this is the color. And then we have to bring in the x-axis values. Yep. Now we see that we need to decrease the size of the values. Yeah, size of the font, sorry. And then we have to increase the size of the chart. So we can simply push it slightly towards the top. And we can increase it till here. Also, I noticed that we can make the call out value slightly smaller, something like this. Yeah. And we can see if we want to remove the padding. It's already removed. So, yep. And then this one, we can make its position a bit up like this. And then here we can remove all of the padding to make it bigger. And yeah, so this one is also complete. What we need to do is we need to group it. We will delete this one, and this one would be called visual underscore 03. Okay, so and then we are going to see this text box, and the KPI card. You can place it at the top. And also, in case if we want to turn off the tooltips, we can turn them off if they are already off. We can turn off the header icons as well in case if we need. And yeah, so the third KPI is also ready. Okay, the next KPI that we have to build is this KPI where we have the current year sales amount. We have got the percentage increase or decrease, which is the variance percentage versus the prior year. And then we've got the percentage variance versus the baseline year. Baseline year is something that we can select from here. So in case if you are doing your financial analysis or your sales analysis and you want to compare it with a certain baseline year, you can use this approach. So first what we will do is that we will copy the baseline year here, okay, and then we will bring in this visual, we'll copy it over, and then we will start to replicate it on our worksheet. So this visual essentially it's a combination of 1, 2 and 3 visuals. Why are we using a text box instead of the title? Because that here we can see that in case if we really want to stick with the approach, that the heading that is bold and then the year that is not bold, so we have to use the text box. And then we will go with the KPI as usual, and then we will go with the column chart, which is basically this combo chart. So let's start by copying over this KPI, and then what we are going to do is to put the color as dark blue for the call out values, and for the reference labels I will remove this, and I've got these two in visual 4. You will see that I've got this visual 4 text var baseline year var prior year. I'll bring this in, and you can see that basically this is like percentage variance and prior year 2023 as compared to 2024. If we click on this, it's a very simple measure that we are taking the percentage variance, we are formatting that, and then we are concatenating that with a prior year text, and then we are saying that if you select a particular year, you are simply subtracting 1 from that. Okay, and similarly we will bring in baseline year. As you can see here that this is the percentage variance and baseline year. We will select all, and then we have to arrange them in terms of rows. So we will, once we select all, we will go to the layout, and then we will arrange it as rows. So here you can see it. So in case if you want to go with this approach that you do not want to color the background, it's perfectly fine to use the reference labels. But if you want to color the background as well, so in the reference labels, since we do not have this feature, so we'll have to do a slight workaround, and the workaround is that we will add the detail. So in the detail we will turn it on, and then we will bring in the prior year. So we are essentially bringing in the same value, and then we are going to select the other one and detail on, and we are going to bring in this detail. What we will do next is that we will turn off the value. So we've got the detail left, then we will go here, we will turn off the value, we've got the detail left here. We will make sure that their font sizes are consistent and they have to be bold. So we will make it as bold. Okay. And I feel that there's a slight difference in the font size, which shouldn't be there. So let me just correct it in my main worksheet as well. So if I go there, reference labels, and then I select this one and detail. So this one is 12, and if I select the other one, this one is 11, so this should be 12 as well. Okay, so I'll do the same here. For example, here I will come, and then for the reference labels, first I'll select the first label, I'll go to detail, I'll select it as 12 and bold. And for the font color, what I'm going to do essentially is that I'm going to use the variance percentage color. So we go there, and then we have to select color, variance percentage versus prior year color. So this is changing, that's fine. And then for this one, what we are going to do is to bring in the same color, color, yeah, and then we are going to set the transparency to something suitable, maybe 85. Yep. And then we are going to go to another one, we select the detail. This time the color should be versus the baseline here, which is this one. Okay, and then we are going to set it as bold. And then for this color, again it's going to be the same color, set it as bold, set it as 85%. Okay, so this is fine. Now in case if I want to see 2023, and for the baseline I select 2016. So now I see that it's changing the colors according to what we have configured. So this part is completed. Now we have to take the text box. So what we will do is we will insert the text box here, and we are going to type sales pipe, and then we have to bring in this year. So I will type 00 underscore filter selected year, which should be 2023. Yeah, so I've got this one. And now what I'm going to do is to color all of them in the blue that I want. And then this one, we can just make it slightly bigger, bold, and there we have it. What we are going to do is to check the effects. There shouldn't be any background. Yeah, so we can place it here. This can also go slightly up, so we'll just go to the position vertical. Yeah, okay. Now we have to build this visual. So how we have built this visual is that, as you can see, that we've got these rounded edges, which is possible using the error bars. So we have this one thing. The second thing that we have to do is that if we are using the error bars and we want to highlight the year that is selected, that is something slightly different as compared to if we just use a normal column chart. We wanted those cornered edges, and then we simply highlight the year that is selected. So that's a different thing. In order to have these rounded edged columns with the color of the current year, we have to take a different approach. What we will do is, firstly, we will bring in the combo chart here, and then we will bring in the year from the running calendar, this one, As you know that we are showing the trend, so we have to use the year from this calendar. Okay, what we have to do is to bring in these columns. So in case if we have to bring in these columns, what I have done is that I have created two dummies. One is _0, which is only 0 or a blank value. Let's have a look. We are saying that current year is selected value, which is the running year, and then filtered year is selected value, which is the year. And selected years is something that you will select as 5, 10 or 15. Now if the current year is less than the filtered year and current year is greater than the filter year minus the selected years, right? So then you have to show a 0, otherwise it has to show a blank. If I will not set this condition and if I will show 0 for all of those, what will happen is that it will start to show some blank spaces. Okay, so by applying this condition, we are not only limiting the number of columns, but at the same time we are trying to avoid any kind of unwanted zeros or any kind of blank spaces in the visual. So for example, if I just say var result equal to 0, you see that these blank spaces, they appear. So we want to avoid these kind of blank spaces. That's why we are creating this window. So we go back. Okay, now this is fine. So let's start working with this one. What we are going to do is we are going to bring in this measure and this measure. We've got these two, and let me just use this format painter to remove everything. Okay, now we've got this here, and then what we are going to do is to bring in the error bars for each of these. That would be our columns. So for the _0, I'm going to bring in the prior year. Here I have one measure which is called sales total running prior year only. Once I bring in this, you will see that there would be only the prior year. So in case if I'm selecting 2024, the values would be from 2023 going backwards. 2024 will not be included. Then I've got current year only, which is that once I select 2024, the values will only be for 2024. And here you can go through that expression. It's quite simple. So you can go through that and you will get the idea. So let's go to prior year only. And what we are going to do is we select the field, this one, enabled, and we simply bring upper bound. Now you can see that the error bars are appearing. We scroll down, bar, the width, we increase it to 10. Okay, we still need that rounded edge. So we are going to turn on the markers as circles, right? And for the markers, we do not want any kind of border. So here we can see that it's like this. Yeah, it appears perfectly fine even when we zoom in. And then we have to set the color. So we will set it to a very light gray, something like that. Then what we are going to do is we are going to select the other measure and we are going to bring in the current year only, this one, upper bound, turn it on, we can see it here. Width should be 10, border color, whatever it is, it will turn to 0. Bar color should be blue, markers should be 6, and like this. Okay, when we zoom in, we can see it like that. Okay, so this is working fine. What we have to do is to do a bit of a cleanup. We remove the legend, we bring in the x-axis, right, and we turn off its title. So, and then what we have to do is to try to use as much space as we can. So we will remove the padding to 0 and we will just drag it slightly towards the bottom, slightly towards right, and then effects, the background should be off. Yeah, and then we can see in case if we want to adjust any other thing. Let me just have a look. Layout, and then for the space between the categories, in case if we want to increase it as much as we can. So this one is also complete. What we are going to do is we are going to select all of these, group them, and we are going to group them, and then we are going to go to view, selection, and we can change its name as well. The next part of our visuals is sales versus profit. So in case if we want to have sales as a separate chart and profit as a separate chart in our KPI, we can use sales versus profit visuals. So our first step, that we are going to copy this visual to our worksheet, and then we are going to start building it. I'll move it towards the right. Yeah, okay. So here we can see that we've got the sales KPI, and then you've got a line chart, essentially an area chart, and then we've got the profit KPI and then the profit area chart. We've got some titles and some reference label along with the details. So it looks quite simple. Let's start building it. We will start with this same KPI, Control C, Control B, and we will bring it here, right? And then what we are going to do is to, as we can see here, that this text is similar to this one. So I'm going to bring in this text box, home, copy, paste. So I'll bring it here. Yeah. And then I am going to select all of these. So let's say if I want to go with a dark gray color, something like this. The sales KPI, I will reduce the call out value to 25. I think this size is fine. And now we have to look at this. So we will go to reference labels, and first we are going to, just let me do this. Okay, so first what we are going to do is we are going to remove this reference label, and now we have to bring in the percentage. So var percent versus prior year is the KPI that we created, this one. When we add this 17.3, that's perfectly fine. And then we have got this pipe, then the value. So I have created one. So I'll go to reference label, and then I'm going to select this label. Then for the detail, I am going to bring in var versus prior year in thousands. This should be the one. I'll turn it on, var versus prior year in thousands. Yeah, and it is along with the pipe. So I'm taking amount in thousands and I'm concatenating that with the pipe before the number. So I will put this, and then what we have to do is we need to go back to this one, and for the details we will select it as on, and the layout should be in rows. Yeah, okay, so this one is fine. And now we have to go back to the sales total, this series. I go to the value. First I decrease the size of the value, font size is decreased, I make it bold. This should be, now we can use any of those colors. So for example, var percentage versus prior year, this one. So I'm going to click here, field value, color, yeah, and var versus prior year. So this one is fine. And then for the detail, I apply the same rules, var versus prior year. There we go, perfect. And then for the label, I need to type in something here. Let me see if I have a text versus prior year. Yeah, so I'm going to select custom, and then I'm going to go to Now this is something that I have done extra in case if you want to type a static text, you can, or if you want to type in something like a measure and then you want to bring it in, it's up to you. Okay, versus prior year. And now we have to bring this in the first line and the numbers in the second line. So what we're going to do is to resize it so that it becomes like this. What we can do here more is that we have to select the series sales total. Then we go to sales total and this is the title. It's fine. We can reduce the font size and we can make it slightly lighter. For the value, we can also bring it slightly smaller, and then for the detail, we can make it smaller than the value. And then in case if we want to squeeze it like this, so this is done. We're going to copy this quickly and make it same for the profit. So we are going to copy it, paste it like this. And then we are simply going to write profit with this sales. Okay, so this is fine. For this number, we will remove this altogether. We will bring in the profit total. So this is 1.79 million. We are going to see it's 25. That's fine. And for profit total, we are going to set the values to be displayed in thousands without any decimal places, and the label should be turned off. So we will go back to all. The label should be turned off, and then we are going to bring in the versus prior year detail. So we will go to reference labels, profit, and then versus var versus prior year. Yeah, this is the one. So we bring it here, and then for the label, the title should be there, but this should be custom. We've got versus prior year, this one. Yeah, versus prior year. And then for the value itself, when we select the var versus prior year, it should be 0. So it's 530k. That's fine. But I think we have made a small mistake. We have to remove this one, and then we have to bring in the var percentage actually. So we bring in the var percentage versus prior year like this. And then we have to set the same for the labels. So we go there, and then we are going to bring in the detail, which is going to be var versus prior year in thousands. So this will be the one. And then we have to work with the, so I hope it's there. Yeah, it's there. So what we have to do is to format it according to this setting. So I leave it up to you. Okay, so once you have done the formatting of these two KPIs, now we have to build this area chart, and it's very simple. Again, as we see here that the measures is 01 sales total running, and this is years. So what we are going to do is to bring in the area chart, and then we have to go for sales, or rather I would just type running. So we will have less measures on the screen. That's the y-axis, and then the x-axis has to be the year, which is coming from dim_calendar running. You've got this one. Now we need to do the cleanup. Let's try this if it works. Yes, it does. And then the sort axis would be ascending. Okay, so this is the sales that we have. Now there is one issue here, as you can see even on this chart, is that in case if you put a lot of years, these number of years, they will not fit into this chart. So it's up to you. In case if you're going with a 5-year scenario, that it's fine. If you're going with a 10-year scenario, it needs a bit of adjustment here. But yeah, let's keep it like this. And in case if we want to bring in the markers, so we will go to the first, let's start with the shaded area. So all the, in fact, we have to start with the lines. Yeah, so we choose all the lines. The color, we will go with dark gray. And then in case if we go with a darker one, no, this would be too dark, or we can go with something like this. Yeah, and then we are going to set the markers. So for the markers, we will set it for all categories, and we will start to make it smaller, something like this. Even for the lines, I think we can decrease the width of the line. Yeah, something like this would be fine. So we copy it, paste it here, and then what we are going to do, remove the sales total running, and we are going to bring in the profit total running here. Yeah, and the similar method that we are going to set the lines, the color should be this much dark. Yeah, and just confirming, it should be this one. Yeah, so this KPI is also ready. It looks fine if we are having only 5 years or less than 10 years, maybe 8 years or something like that. So in the end, what we are going to do is to group all of these, and this is another KPI that is complete. The next visual that we have to build is this KPI where we have the sales and profit side by side, and then we have the column charts, one for the profit and one for the sales, and the column with the current year or the selected year is darker than the previous year. So we are going to copy this first to our worksheet, and then we are going to replicate it. So what we have essentially is 2 KPIs. So we can copy this one, Control C, Control V, and then we can start from here. As we can see that here it has to be versus PY or versus prior year. So I'm repeating one more time that what we are doing here is that we are replicating the exact design that we saw. Otherwise, versus previous year makes complete sense. But in case if we just want to replace it with the text versus PY, we are going to follow this report. So what we are going to do here is, firstly, we are going to bring in the accent bar. And before I bring that, I think it would be better if I would bring the profit. So again, it would be profit underscore total, which is this one. So I'll bring it here, and then I am going to expand it like this, maybe a bit more here. And then we have to start building these. So for example, when we start from all, so we are having these values, profit total, we are going to make it in thousands. Yeah, and then the second thing, the second thing would be that we go to profit total and we turn off the labels. In fact, what we have to do is to bring this all and turn off the labels and turn on actually below value. Okay, and then we go to sales. Now this label, we turn it on and it's 2024 sales. So I have one measure here, which is basically something like this. So we are going to bring in CY space sales. We clear this off and then we go CY space sales. This is the one. So this title is there. And then similarly for the other one, we will go profit and we turn on the label and then we type CY profit. You've got this one, we put it here. Okay, so that's perfect. Now we have to make them colored. So since we are already in profit, we'll go to the values, this one, and for the label we will select this color, and then we go to sales, we go select this color, and then this color. So this one is done. What we have to do is to bring in the details first. For the profit, again I will go back to profit and not the values or labels this time. Now we will go to reference labels, and we have to bring in VAR percentage versus prior year, and then the detail. Now for the reference label, we can see that we've got the VAR percentage and the variance. So we have one measure because we need to have this VAR percentage, and we have to put the brackets and then a positive or a negative value. For example, if I go to 2021, I will see that we have got this negative within this bracket, right? So we need to have that. In order to do that, what we have done is we have created a new measure, and that should be VAR percentage versus prior year and versus baseline. We are going to use the prior year for the sales and the profit. We select this one again, and then we go to the reference label. Let's start with sales total. Firstly, we will remove this, and we are going to bring in VAR percentage versus prior year. Here we can see that it's exactly like this. We are going to turn off the detail. For the value, we are going to make it slightly smaller, something like this. And for the title, first we have to select this, turn it on, and then it has to be versus PY. So there is a text versus PY in this one. So for the title, what we are going to do is custom, and then we can either type versus PY or we can simply bring in this text. It's up to you. So versus PY, we've got this versus PY. Similarly, we'll do it for the profit first, but let's also set the color. So for the title, for the value, we are going to set the color, field value, and we are going to type in color versus PY. So this is perfectly fine. And then we are going to do the same with the profit. So we go to profit, add the data, and that is going to be VAR percentage, this one. And then we are going to select the label. For this one, we are going to type in versus PY, or we can select the text. So this one. And then we are going to go to all, and the value should be smaller, something like this, right? And then we have to select this label. Sorry, we have selected this, yeah. And then we go to the value. You have to set the color, which would be for the profit this time. Oops, it has to be field, and then we have to put color. Yeah, okay, so this is also fine. Now what we need to do is to bring them in different lines. For bringing versus PY and the values in different lines, we just need to go to the reference labels. We have to select all. Then we go to the layout, because always remember, whenever we are setting these layouts, we have to do it for all of the labels. But when we are setting the colors or some font size, that can be done on individual labels. So we go and we select all series. So here you can see like the below callout or right of callout. This is like a universal setting for all of these labels. So we go to divider, and here we go to columns, and it's like this, right? Now we have to set the font size for the titles. We are going to go to sales total, And here for the title, we can set it smaller, something like this, and dark gray. And then we go to profit total. We are going to set it as dark gray and we make it smaller. So this one is done. Now we have to bring in the column chart. Again, as you can see here in this column chart, we are using 4 different measures: the prior year only and the current year only. If you remember, this is something that we used in these error bars. Why we are using this? Because we need to have different colors for different columns. So any columns that belong to the prior years or the previous years, we need to have them in light color. And then in case if we want it for the current year, we need to have them in darker color. If we are using just one column in our visual, we can use the conditional formatting. But since we want to bring in the sales and profit in the same visual, we cannot use that conditional formatting, and then we have to use these 4 measures. So as you can see here, that basically we are using a clustered column, and then we bring in the prior year and the current year only, and then the prior year only, and then the current year only. So if you zoom into this visual, you will see that there's a slight gap. That happens because we are creating those clustered columns. So just set it to fit. Okay. And what we are going to do here is we are going to bring in a column chart. Let me just make it smaller. Column chart. And then what we are going to do is to bring in, so I've got these 4. Only is the keyword that I used to search it. So first we have to bring in the prior year. So sales prior year and then current prior year. In fact, what I will do is basically I'll bring in the year so that we can see the effect. Dim calendar running, we will bring in x-axis. And then we are going to make something like this. So we've got the sales prior year only, profit prior year only, and then profit current year only, and then sales current year only. Yeah. And we will try to see if that works. Yes, okay. And then what we have to do is for the columns, we are going to remove the space between the categories. Okay, so here we can see that yes, the columns are appearing, but looks like that the formatting is slightly different and the spacing is also different. So we are going to first set the settings here for prior year only profit. It has to be blue, but with a higher transparency. We can say it's around 50, or maybe let's make it 40. Then for the profit total current year, it will be 0. So you can see that it's darker. Now for the sales prior year only, we are going to select this. Yeah, it's already selected, and it has to be 40 again. And then for the current year only, we are going to select the blue, but it's going to be darker. But as we can see here that the spacing is not consistent, so we need to play around with the order. So what I see here is that we have to bring in the sales here. Okay. And yes, then it's working, but still we need to sort the axis according to the year, and it has to be ascending. Yes. And then we have to go back and set the color for this column, which is sales total prior year. Okay. And this one, profit, it has to be this one. Yeah. So this one looks better, but I think if we zoom in, or in case if we zoom in like this, yes. What we need to do here is we can set the transparency to slightly lighter if we want. So we can go there, and for the prior year only, maybe we can set it to 50. And for the prior year only sales, we can set it to 50 as well. One last thing that I forgot here was the accent bar. So we have to go to cards, and then we have to go to accent bar. We have to switch it on. After switching it on, we have to select it for each of the series. So for example, here for the color, again we will use the field value, and that is color for the sales versus prior year. And then we have to select the other one, and then we are going to select field value color versus prior year, which is this one. Okay, and now let's have a look. In case if we switch it to 2021, we can see that it's turning red and this one is green, so this one looks absolutely fine. In case if we want to increase a bit of the spacing, so we can select all, and in the layout we can basically increase the spacing just a bit to make it look better. And now we can see that the columns here, they look quite better. So this is how we make this KPI. The next KPI that we are going to make is this sales versus profit. Here we can see that the title has different color for sales and profit, so definitely it's not going to be the title itself. We are going to use the text box. And then you've got these KPIs. So these ones are with the arrows. Here what we are showing essentially is the VAR percentage year-on-year basis, and then we are showing the amount in the details. And here we are showing the year-on-year change trend, sales versus profit. So we'll start building this KPI. We copy it, then we move it here. Let's start with a simpler one. I think this one should be fine. So start with this one, and here we've got these KPIs which are with arrows. So we are going to first bring in these KPIs. I have created KPIs with arrows, which is basically sales total VAR percentage versus prior year with arrow, and I'm going to remove this. I'm gonna bring this one 17.3%, and also I'm going to make all of these values not bold at all. Okay, and perhaps smaller in size, something like this. 22 is fine. And then I'm going to bring in the profit total VAR percentage versus prior year with arrow 2. So I'll bring in this one and then expand it. Now we have to turn off the title, and then we have to bring in the amounts in reference labels, and then the title in the detail. So first things first, we have to set the values color. Again, as you can see that it's going to be color VAR percentage versus prior year. Okay, and then we select the other one, and this is going to be based on field value color profit VAR percent versus prior year. And then we are going to turn off the titles, so we go back to all and we turn off the label or the title. Now we select sales, and then we go to the reference labels. Here what we are going to do is to bring in the total. So we will bring in total sales, which is this one. This one has to be in the format of 3.73 million. That means it will be in millions with 2 decimal places. So I'm going to select this one, and then I am going to select this value in millions and 2 decimal places. So that's perfectly fine. And then I am going to turn off the title. For this I will select all, and then I will turn on the title for all of them. For the values, I will keep them and I will make them bold and dark gray and a bit smaller in size. So this is the universal setting that I have done. Let's select this sales, and then for sales total, the title is off, the value is there. We have to bring in the detail, and in the detail I just need to bring in this text, which is sales. So I think I have one which is this one. So I'm going to bring in this sales and slightly bigger like this, and it has to be dark gray. And then for the profit, I'm going to do the same. Profit, first I need to bring in the total, so I bring in total profit, which is this one. Okay, and then I am going to select this label. Title is already off, we have to bring in the detail. For detail, I think it should be again text, and then you have this profit, so we put in this profit, and I am going to increase it in size like this and dark gray. So the first part of the KPI, which means that the KPI itself, that is complete, but we need to make it closer to each other. For making them closer to each other, we need to go to in fact in the reference labels we need to go to all, and then for the spacing we are going to reduce this outer padding to 0. As you can see, now it's closer to each other. And also we need to bring in this year on year text. We are going to bring in a text box and just type year on year, make it slightly bigger, maybe 12 or 14, and make it gray. And then bring it here with the properties, making sure that the background is off, something like this. And we have to do it for this one as well. One thing more that we need to check is for the callout values, the horizontal alignment should be on the left, and I think if we make the value slightly smaller, that would be better, perhaps like this. Yeah, so we have space for this year on year text. Similar, what we are going to do is to have this text box, copy, paste. So we have another one, and we can place both of these. We select both of these, format, align the bottom. Okay, so they are placed here. And then what we are going to do is to make this title. Again, it will be a text box, so we will create a text box, and we are going to say here we are going to bring in the value, which will be the 00 underscore filtered selected year, right? And then save colon, and then we have to type in sales versus profit. So what we are doing here is that we are just giving this idea that sales is represented by dark blue and profit is represented by a lighter color or a lighter blue. And this selected year, this is represented by dark gray. And all of these are bold and slightly bigger, something like 14, and then we have to bring it here. Okay, and also what we can do is we can turn this off. Okay, one thing that we have to make sure is that whenever we are designing any user interface, we have to make sure that there is enough white space. So we are making sure that there is enough white space between the title and the KPI itself. If we want to increase it slightly more, we can do it like this, and then we can try to place it in the middle. So we can bring in the properties, the position in fact, and the horizontal position. Maybe we can set it like this. Okay, now we have to build this chart it's quite easy. So what we are going to do is to copy this one, paste it, bring it here. So we will remove this, and then we have to bring in the year on year. So var percentage running, because we have to put it in the trend. So this year it's running, this is fine. And then we have to look for var percentage versus prior year running. This goes in the line y-axis. Yeah. And then for the column y-axis, we have to bring in profit total var percentage prior year running. Okay. So here you can see that this chart is done. We have to put the title here. So we can simply expand this chart, in fact, and we can make it general title on, and then this one is year on year change, trend, sales versus profit. Yeah. And we set its color to gray, make it slightly smaller, something like this. And yeah, this is done. So here we can see what we are doing essentially is that we are giving the KPI in terms of var percentage that has more importance, and then we are showing the trend for that specific var percentage KPI. The next KPI that we are going to build shows the sales and the profit, and we can see a line and a column chart, which is a combo chart where the line represents the sales and the columns, they represent the profit. So let's copy this and then we can start making it. We have to copy this KPI. This is the closest one. And then we are going to reset the cards. So reset them, and the border, we turn it off. And then we are going to go to the call out values. The first one here, we have the label, and the label has to be 2024 sales. So for all, we are going to put it above the value. That's fine. And space between label and the KPI, it should be as less as possible. The second thing we have to do is to push it back to gray. And for the other one, or maybe we can go for a darker color, something like this. Then we can go for the profit total. We can go for the darker color. So this is fine. Versus prior year, 17.3% and 552K. So we are going to go to reference labels and layout. It should be rows, right? And then we have to make sure that if we can increase the width slightly, so that's fine. And then we go to position and horizontal, we can just push it like this. One thing I've noticed is that the detail part, there is some detail here. So I think when I go to reference label, I go to profit and title, detail has to be off. Yeah, so now it's gone. So apologies, the detail was on here. Similarly here, we can see that the detail is on. So we go to the reference labels, we select the second one and we turn off the detail. Okay, so this is fine. Now we have to remove the color formatting. So we can go to the reference labels, then we go to one sales total, the value, and we remove the formatting. Yeah, we can set it to gray like this, and we do the same for profit. We go to value and we remove it, and then we are going to set it to dark gray. So this one is fine. Another thing we can do is we can set the reference labels, select all, and the spacing. So in case if you want to reduce the outer padding, something like this, then it should be fine. Next up, what we need to do is to create this kind of chart. So I copy it first. Let's start building the visual. We'll start by bringing in the line and clustered column chart. And then we are going to look for year in dim_calendar running. That will be the x-axis. And then sales running, that will be the line y-axis. And then say profit running, that would be the column y-axis. And then we are going to remove the title and do the cleanup of the visual. We can simply use this one, perhaps. Yeah, that does some work. We turn off the legend and we are going to sort the axis according to the year in ascending order. So that works fine. And then we are going to set the columns first. So we go to the columns, we select a color something like this, and then we are going to select the border, and then has to be perhaps this one, or even a darker one like this. And then we are going to go to the layout, and we have to increase the spacing between the columns something like this. And then we have to bring in the shaded area. Also, we need to make sure that when we go to the advanced options, so this is not responsive, and we turn off the title, we turn on the values, make them 8, and make sure that the y-axis values, they are off and the title is off. So this is ready, and then we are going to also make sure that we turn off the tooltips, and we can make this larger as much as possible. And yep, that's it. This ends part 1 of our video where we created 8 KPIs, and in the next part we are going to create the remaining 8 KPIs, which would be related to actuals versus target and sales versus baseline year sales. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you in the next video.